Welcome, community. We are so happy to have you here. I am Representative Hyde Clark of District 16 in your great city of Boise, here to promote House Bill 586, the Early Childhood Development and Education Act. You know, a strong foundation, a strong leader has basics and starts with a strong foundation. And here this bill presents pre-kindergarten education, and that, we believe, will be the foundation of our future Idaho leaders. Again, we are so glad to have you here today. I've talked with many of you, many parents out there who have expressed concern that they either don't have the time or the money to educate their children as they are going to work. And therefore, we want to initiate this voluntary act to 5 public elementary schools. 5 public elementary schools will be chosen out of Idaho. And for 3 years, we will do research on their development to see if this helps. That then gives us the power to decide whether or not the pre-kindergarten education is helpful and beneficial to our Idaho communities. So far, we've received various donations of not only support, but financial support from many community representatives around here, including the Boise YMCA, the United Way, and the Boise Rotary Club. And here today I have Representative Christine Perry, Representative Doug Hansey, Representative Julie Van Orden, Beth Oppenheimer, the Executive Director of the Association for Education of Young Children, and Leanne Simmons, the Executive Director of the Idaho Voice for Children. Again, we're pleased to have you here today. Please, Christine Perry, take the stand.
Good afternoon. I am so happy to be here with such a talented group of young women. Now, I am here to stand arm in arm with Representative Clark, and I am going across the aisle. And do you know why this is important? Because education and stability in our economy should never be a partisan issue. Thank you, exactly. So that is why I am standing here today. When you look at all of the research that Beth Oppenheimer has to present to you, when you look at the research that's provided by Leanne Simmons, we recognize that pre-K education is incredibly valuable to our youth. Not only that, but it is valuable to our economy. That's right, for Republicans, it is valuable to our economy. And so what does that mean? That means let's cut down on correction costs, right? Let's cut down on the cost of welfare, and we have seen that pre-K education actually does that. So no longer should the Republican Party be targeted for not caring about education, because I stand here in solidarity with representatives from both sides of the aisle recognizing that this is an important issue. With that, I hope that everyone comes to offer their full support in the committee hearing, because this is an important issue that deserves everyone's voice. Woo! Thank you. Woo! We'll open up for any questions.
Hi, Betsy Russell, Spokesman Review. Representative Clark, you mentioned 5 public schools will participate in this pilot program for 3 years. You'll analyze data. What data will you be collecting and analyzing, and how will that affect your decision to either implement the program or not?
Well, we're looking to see whether or not are interested, they will know how their child is developing the best, and they will be able to talk to their legislators to see if they want to represent it. Through our research, we have shown that for every $1 invested, we will get a $7 to $13 return.
And are you concerned, in your county alone, Representative Clark, there's 61% of parents of children under the age of 6 that are working outside of the home. Are you concerned that these parents will see this program as a replacement for private daycare that they're having to fund themselves, not interest in the true spirit of which the program is intended for?
Our program represents a continuum of families, whether they are interested in something besides the child care that they're developing, whether it's economic circumstances, and if we can help them that way. But we know that more money will go into the private sector to help businesses run. Regardless of the reasons, this is for the children, and we hope to get them educated to get educated leaders.
And how exactly would this put money into the private sector?
If parents are spending less money for childhood care, we are able to spend more money in businesses, going to restaurants, doing more family activities.
So you would say if the interest is in economic gain, not in the interest of actually having our children prepared for kindergarten when they enter, that's okay with you?
Well, Betsy, I say we can have both.
I'd like to chime in on that, if I may. Through this pilot program, we also will be measuring the number of children in 3rd grade, their literacy levels. And we know that pre-K, children who go through pre-education programs show lower rates of crime, less money spent in institutions, and we know that this right there is in the best interest of families.
So if your pilot program is 3 years, the children entering for the first year will only be in the 2nd grade at the completion of your pilot program. How will that allow you to study 3rd grade reading levels?
You know, I think really we're here to talk about the pilot program, and that would certainly be something that we would extend and hope that the people would vote for further data collection. But that's simply not within the scope of this. But you have to start somewhere, and this is where we'd like to start.
Dan Popke from the Statesman. No comment. I miss what you said. Thank you. My question is, what will happen to the kindergarten times that are already half days? Will they turn into whole days? Will they stay half days? We're just a little confused on where they're going to go.
You know, to reiterate, again, that's not within the scope of what we're trying to do. The neural development is really crucial prior to age 5 when kindergarten is. So we would rather see some early development rather than extending days in kindergarten. So it would be half days in kindergarten still. We aren't touching that. That's not within our purview.
So we'll have students going to school a full day for pre-K and then going to half day afterward for kindergarten?
No, it's half day for both programs.
Thank you. Melissa Davlin, Idaho Public Television. During this trial, if the trial is deemed successful, when it's in other schools, what will be the educational requirements of the teachers teaching these programs?
Well, I'll go ahead and answer that. So, I think that ultimately what we recognize is we want to stay away from the federal government. And so right now, we can recognize that by looking to state standards, that's how we can best provide for citizens' needs here in Idaho.
Representative Perry, you mentioned that this was going to be privately funded, at least the pilot program, and so we didn't have citizens that need to be concerned about health and welfare being cut. But if the program goes forward, do you plan on increasing taxes to fund it, or will it continue to be privately funded? And if you're not going to increase taxes, that would mean that this money needs to come from somewhere it already exists. So wouldn't citizens need to be concerned about their health and welfare dollars being cut?
Well, Betsy, I think that you have a lot of what-ifs in that question, right? I think that ultimately what we're saying here is that it's going to provide a lot of, we've seen a huge return. It's a public investment. And so we're not going to be investing any money money into this program because it's all coming back into this program, and that's why I am standing here in huge support.
Again, that return is seen for several years down the road. So
Right.
to get back to my question, voters do want to know how is this going to affect their pocketbook? If you're not going to increase taxes, just once again, where is the money going to come from to implement the program should the pilot prove successful?
If I may, I would like to point out that this is a test pilot program. This is to test if we want to add this to the future of our state. And this is just a test, and further on we shall see if our constituents would like to add more of this or if they would just like to remove it.
So will that pilot program information and the data analysis that you use be made public, and at what point in time?
As a person invested in research myself, you know, you cannot put timelines on that. Certainly we would make that public. That's the whole point. However, we cannot guarantee a return on when that would be out because all research is fluid.
So at the end of your pilot program in 3 years, are you saying you don't know how long it will take you to make a decision whether or not to implement a full program moving forward?
Now, don't you even answer that.
That's not for us to decide. If the people want it, it would have to go to a vote to them. It's not up to us.
So we'll be having a pilot program for 3 years, and then we don't know what the next step is. Is this
As
correct?
we
That's
have
gonna be up
stated
to you.
before, this is a voluntary program, and it's up to our constituents to state whether they would like it or not.
And do you think that the information and data gathered from that pilot program will help inform that decision?
Certainly.
So my question is, how will they get that information and when?
There are no guarantees in life, ma'am.
Did you record that?
Yeah, I got it.
Thanks.
Alrighty, if there's no further questions, Senator?
Again, we'd like to thank you for being here outside with us today and invite you to the community meeting happening right now.